rather than the love of the most important thing, knowledge. The love, and Ibn al-Qayyim put it in a very beautiful way. He says knowledge is more important than the air that you breathe, the water that you drink, and the food that you eat. Because he said that, okay, without air we'll die, but at least you die with knowledge. As a measure, وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. Die as a Muslim, die with someone who knows their purpose, dies with someone who has values, someone who has enlightened themselves, developed their qualities. At least you die with that. Knowledge is the most important provision. My kids in Africa, they realize knowledge is power. Knowledge really is power, and knowledge that is implemented really makes you even more powerful, rather than knowledge we just stack on shelves. And with that knowledge, and one of the things that really occurred to me when I was teaching those particular kids, they lived in absolute poverty, these kids. I'm telling you, they lived in absolute poverty on 70 pence a day. But they were highly aspirational. They wanted to be doctors, engineers, etc., etc. And then I come to the UK, and I'm teaching kids as well, and I found that they are, like I said, amongst the most privileged students in the world, amongst the wealthiest students in the world. Yet I didn't find any ambition or aspiration. No himma. Where was this aluwa himma, this great ambition? They weren't ambitious. If anything, they were totally disaffected. And they were always, I just found negativity, excuse after excuse. And then, I found a completely different kind of mindset. And so that's why I said, look, in students in Africa that I was teaching, they lived in absolute poverty but were highly aspirational. Whereas we today live in really comparative wealth, but we have a poverty of aspiration. And really, as a Muslim student, I think it's something slightly different, because as I said, you're driven by something very, very different. You're driven by this desire, really, to change yourself, your family, and the environment around you. To take those values of the Prophet ﷺ and really implement and demonstrate those values. Malcolm X, rahimahullah, he was one of these people who did it. He was one of these people who didn't just sit on his backside and make excuses, but decided to actually change the world. One person. And to this day, and he really is, I've got to say, when I ask people about a legend, a Muslim legend in the last 100 years, name a Muslim legend in the last 100 years. It's only, a legend is someone who transcends all communities, all people. We have our own internal heroes, many of them, but a legend is someone everyone recognizes, I always say. A hero and a legend. And Malcolm X truly is that embodiment of that, of those legendary heroic principles. Someone which transcends, is universal all over the world. People recognize this as a role model. He was self-educated. He decided to educate himself in prison. That's how he did it. And he did it because he was writing letters to senators talking about the plight of the black man in America. He was, obviously wanted, and the need for social justice. So he's writing these letters, and he found his penmanship and his writing, he wasn't very articulate. He was very concerned about this. He said he's concerned about, I'm not as articulate, I want to make a really strong case. Now he didn't stop there. Many of us would have just stopped there, and that would have been sufficient as an excuse. I ain't going to do anything more. No, he decided to take it further. He said, no, I've got to educate myself. Went to the library, picked up a book, some of you are familiar with the story in his autobiography, picked up the dictionary, started from A, went all the way to Z. Wrote every single word in a pad. Learned every single word in the dictionary, and then by the end of his stay at prison, had read every single book in the library. And that's what drove him to become the orator and the thinker and the writer and the transformer that he was. And again, the driver, learning, education. Education is a passport of the future, for tomorrow belongs to those people who prepare for it today. Not just sitting down, but taking that. And this is based on a very important principle in Islam. And this is a principle which, again, it's not internalized enough. It's called being proactive as well. It's one of the, you could say, the indicators of effective people. Allah says in the Quran, "Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim." Allah does not change the condition of people until they change what is in their own souls. You change yourself first, and then you see a change in the environment take place around you. Unless you do that change. And of course, in tansullahi yansurkum wa yuthabbit aqdamakum. If you help in the way of Allah, Allah will help you and make you strong. And our belief as Muslims is that we secure the help of Allah. You've got to act. Sometimes it's a massive amount of action. that's required, a massive amount of action that has to drive it. And this is what Allah sabr. This is sabr. That you are, you persevere in times of hardship and difficulty and challenge. But really, who of us really has challenge and difficulty? We're not like as Allah says, وَالصَّابِرِينَ فِي الْبَأْسَاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ وَحِينَ الْبَأْسِ. Sabr in times of war, calamity, natural disaster. Not like famine in Sudan, Somalia, and not like floods in Pakistan. We're not challenged in that way. So really, what is the barrier? And the barrier really, brothers and sisters, is in here. The biggest barrier that we have to changing ourselves and the environment and sustaining that change is in here.